Mark, how are you doing on this August
Morning.
summer day?
Yeah. The weather's not so great this week, is it? But yeah, no, I'm all good. I'm all good. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. Shall we jump into what Joel, our producer, always asks us to do at the
Yeah.
beginning of every show? That
To be
we
fair,
that
we
we've
are
not
getting.
actually. To be fair, the last couple of shows, I think we've actually done it, haven't we?
Yeah, we're getting better at this. So our Patreon page, guys, it's only £2.50. You get early access to our episodes, and you also get a shout out at the end of each episode if you become a patron. So, and you'll hear those at the end of this one. So if you do want to, it's only £2.50, as we say. So it's not a lot. And yeah, it's a great way to support the show. And obviously, we'd be very thankful for that. So yeah, please do check us out on Patreon.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, so today, Mark, we're going to be discussing the best 10 cameras in 2024 that
Yeah.
are allegedly out there, according to a list that we've come across. So we'll see what we think. But I wanted to kick off first of all about something that UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has been talking about, and basically it's to do with working from home and how he criticises the culture of presenteeism.
Okay.
Where it says here, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has defended the rights of employees to work from home, stating that a culture of presenteeism harms productivity. The last Conservative government was focused on getting workers to return to the office after the COVID pandemic, but under Labour's Make Work Pay plan, the government is proposing to give workers a right to switch off. I know that Keir Starmer was saying that when he was going to become Prime Minister, that every Friday he would stop work at 6 o'clock and be able to
Mm.
spend time with his family. And I did read somewhere this week online that apparently he hasn't been able to do that with everything that's been going on. Okay, but I don't know how true that is. And but it's
Well,
a
he's
Starmer spokes.
Prime
Say,
Minister, man. I mean,
yeah,
it's
So Starmer spokesman said the focus behind that is on improving productivity. Good employers understand that for workers to stay motivated and productive, they do need to be able to switch off, and a culture of presenteeism can be damaging to productivity. Now, I would guess, Mark, that most people listening to this podcast, or let's just say photographers, people working as photographers, most of them listening to this podcast will be self-employed, one-man
mhm,
band type
mhm.
businesses. Would you agree on that?
No, I'm not sure if I would agree that most. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's such a range of people these days. Because they are more self-employed. Whether they're one-man
Mm.
bands or not, I don't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd say yeah. I mean, you're probably right in the self-employed part. But whether
Yeah.
one-man bands, I'm not sure.
Okay. Um, so obviously, since COVID, things have changed.
Mhm.
Um, my situation, for example, I have an office, and I had at one point 6 or 7 people. We're all working together in the office on a sort of a daily basis, all
Yeah.
coming in. Great team sort of ethic going on. It was brilliant, bouncing ideas often, off one another. And then after COVID, that it changed,
Yeah.
and now that doesn't exist. People can work from home. Some have left. I found different ways of working. I've outsourced some of the work that I had others that were doing here that were working. So it's really changed, and I almost feel that I've become almost more independent than I was before.
Right.
And yet the business has changed. It's doing more than it ever was.
Mm.
And yet we don't have as many people, just because, trying to find more efficient ways of working, and and people working from home. But also, as listeners, you'll know that we mention, we talk about graduations a lot. So I'm also involved in managing a lot of the photographers. We've got about 50 photographers on the list. It's just over 50 now
Mm.
that I to look after and manage for the graduation. So I'm involved. I have a lot of contact with a lot of other photographers. And Mark, you work with other photographers, not just at the
Yeah.
graduation, so a lot of other photographers, but you do work with some other photographers as well.
Yeah.
So your work and my work, we do see other people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But there's a lot of photographers there that don't go into here, that listen to this, that don't go into an office, have their office at home. Now, whether their office is a separate room that they have at home where they can shut themselves away and say, this is my workspace, or they could be working from their dining room table.
Yeah.
Or they've got a small desk in a bedroom or something,
yeah,
working from home. Now, those photographers, they don't have that option to say, right, okay, I'm going to go into the office and I'm going to go and work with the others today. For a lot of people, they are very, very much on their own a lot of the time, unless they're out on a shoot. And that's not necessarily a good thing, is it?
Well, I guess it's just.
And what do you do about it?
Well, it's just the way it is. I don't know what you do about it. I mean, going back to what you were saying about yourself, I mean, do you miss the days when everyone came into the office?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because there was a point where I couldn't work because it was too noisy. Then we opened up a meeting room next door. And that was really good. I could go in there, shut myself away, but then there was noise coming through because they weren't getting on, or can you just get on? And then they would nip into the shop across the road to go and get something to eat. And there was always something going on. And I'd find myself getting frustrated a lot of the time because I just wanted peace and quiet.
Yeah.
But saying that, I do miss that as well to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But I think it's because things have changed so much because the graduation work they're involved in. So I'm in contact with a lot of photographers.
Because the one thing I would probably just say, because like you said, your business has grown in a way with the graduation photography, and you're saying about you outsource things and you do things more efficiently. I mean, during the graduation time, I sometimes feel like you do need somebody else just to help you.
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, and I said it to you. I mean, there was one time we had Portsmouth and Bath going on at the same time, didn't we? And you were there in Portsmouth. You then had to get a train to Bath, I think it was, wasn't it? Because something something had to be sorted there. And then you came back the next day to Portsmouth because you had to be there for the port. And I was like, surely there's some. It wasn't a hard thing you had to deal with in Bath. It was stage photography or something that was just
that's right.
You know, it didn't require necessarily you, just someone who could sort it. And I just thought this is where you needed like a number two or not a poo, obviously. Like you needed somebody else to go off and sort of help you with that. And I think for me, when you had that team, you may have had someone who you could have gone, because I mean, it might have been Rob who used to work for, and used to be on this podcast. I would have thought, well, you know, if you got Rob who works for you all the time, you'd have probably entrusted Rob to go off to Bath and sort that whilst you could have sorted his stuff at Portsmouth. So I think in some respects that can be detrimental that you don't have that sort of solid team. It is the way things are working these days. I think I do think it's tricky. I understand the idea of working from home. You can just get on. I like working from home sometimes, but I think if I was working from home every day, I would go a bit stir crazy. I think you know, I do need to have that interaction with people.
And you're lucky because you've got. You're lucky you have that, don't you?
I do, yeah. And I wouldn't want to. I don't really want to get rid of that because it's just being on your own all the time for me it's tricky. I think generally, I mean, obviously this story started about Keir Starmer saying presenteeism, you know, not necessarily wanting it. I actually think presenteeism is somewhat important. It doesn't have to be. There was two things, I think. Clocking off at 6, like you were saying. I think you do need to have switch off time. I think we all do. When it's your own business, and as Mr. Keir Starmer is finding out when you're Prime Minister, that sort of thing, it gets increasingly difficult to do because you're always on it. Even if you go, right, that's it, I'm turning off the computer, your mind's still thinking about things. You can't help it. So you never really truly switch off when you're self-employed, I don't think. As much
Yeah.
as you try, there's always going to be something in the back of your mind going, oh, this needs to be done, or oh, I could try that. Even if it's just
Mm,
ideas, it doesn't necessarily have to be a stressful thing you're thinking about. It could be, oh, I like the idea of that. Maybe I'm going to try that when I get back, and it might be something quite exciting. But nevertheless,
mm,
you are still thinking about work. Um, but I think that's different to presenteeism. Presenteeism is what I'm thinking about going somewhere to the office.
mm.
Now, I think maybe we need a mixture of both. I think just I worry about people not being able to socialize and interact with people if they're just constantly just in their own home, own little space all the time, and not sort of having those conversations or having a little argument about who didn't clean the microwave and how you deal
Mm.
with that situation. Do you know what I mean? It's just those little life social skills that you learn from being in an office with other people. I
I don't used to,
think
yeah.
we lost.
They used to wind me up the amount of times tea was being made, right? And the cups and mugs that were being left, and it's those
Yeah,
little things that can actually get to you. But those are
yeah,
things that you start to appreciate afterwards as well. When all that's gone. So
exactly.
and you need that. But going, I want to come on to a couple of things that you said. First of all, was my own situation that you talk about, and then really almost like, what do we do about it? What can photographers do about it?
Yeah.
You were right. I mean, I really overstretched. And what happens is that when I was getting overstretched at everything that we had going on during the summer, it affects me in a way that without wanting to, I can be short with people, not intentionally, but it's
Mm.
just there's so many things
Just
coming
because you're
left, right, and
busy.
center.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I'm now in the process of doing, I'm now in the process of spreading that work out. And that's what's going to happen going forward. When we get into our
Mm.
next busy period, which is going to be November, which would be our next really busy period, then a lot of the tasks I was doing are now going to be spread out amongst others. That's the plan
Yeah.
moving forward, because it's not a job for one person.
No.
So I'm in the process of doing that, and that was one of the things that I did do, that after COVID, when Rob left, and Rob was one that sort of started the podcast with myself,
Yeah.
and we worked very closely together for many years, and due to other circumstances, he decided to move on, and when he left, I realized that he was doing so many different things and how much I actually relied on him.
Mm.
So what I decided to do was, I thought I wasn't going to invest that time and money again into somebody for somebody to then leave, and everyone has a right to do so. I'm not,
Yeah,
I
everyone
wasn't.
has their reasons to do
Yeah,
that.
that's right,
Of
exactly.
course.
So nothing detrimental against Rob for doing
Yeah.
that. You do what you need to do.
Yeah.
So what I did was the editing. I outsourced all of that other work that he was doing. I started to get others to do it, and it made my life a lot easier. But
Mm.
the one thing I did do was, when I outsourced all of those things, and it freed up a lot of my time, because for the
Yeah.
first 3 months it didn't. While I
Mm.
was finding people to, for the first 3 months, it was a very difficult period to get through. I knew I'd get through it because things just had to be put in place. Once
Yeah.
those things were put into place, I thought, do you know what? This works actually now much better,
Mm.
because other people are doing it. And what I was determined not to do was, because I'd freed up a lot of time, I then didn't want to find I was filling that time by then doing more work myself. I tried to use
Yeah.
that time to take some time off, and I did do that for a while. Now, coming back onto working from home, and what can a lot of photographers do? If you are one of those photographers that works at your kitchen table, or has an office at home, and you might be lucky, you might have quite a big office at home,
Mm.
with lots of windows and natural light coming through, and in other words, a feel good room.
Yeah.
If you're in a very small room that's got one tiny window, things like that at home, and that's all the space that you have, you're lucky. First of all, you've got a space you can work from, but
Yeah.
may not do you good, and you might have the radio on for a bit of company and that type of thing. But what are the things that you can do? And I feel that we're lucky in that, for us, as I said, Mark, we're working with a lot of different photographers all the time.
Mm.
But I think trying to network with other photographers, and we mentioned this before, with other local photographers, there's a lot of competition. We all look at other photographers in our local area and say, "Oh, well, that's the competition. That's the competition." But maybe reach out. And I have to be honest, I've not done this before. I'm just doing this as a suggestion. It's
Mm.
not something I've needed to do, but I have thought about it in the past. Is maybe ring a couple of your competitors, or drop the message and say, "Hi, I'm such and such. I'm sure you've heard of me, and I've heard of you. We're in our local area, whatever. Work as an independent. I was just wondering whether you fancy getting together for a coffee." And
Mm-hmm.
and I bet you 9.5 times out of 10 that other photographer with who you've contacted would say, "Yeah, that I'd be really up for that," because they're probably in the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's all
And
sorts of different things you can do. I mean, I'm sure there's some forums and things you can get on. I know that's online, but those things can sort of turn into real life events as well.
mm,
Um, I think things like the show, the photography show,
mm,
and other ones. Click Live was another one, and is it the Wales and West?
yeah,
Is another one, and obviously the societies and all those. It's good to attend those things because you are
right,
then
yeah,
talking to people who are not necessarily your competitors either. If you're worried about that,
no,
you
that's right,
might
yeah, and
get in
yeah,
contact with someone who's the other side of the country. Um, so that's something to think about. And I guess if you're using subcontractors that you use all the time, if you're shooting a wedding, you need a seconds, then obviously that person is someone that you can maybe speak with a bit more or something like that. But yeah, there's all sorts of different ways in which you can do it.
yeah. I
Um,
think even getting out of the office, and I used to see it before when people used to go into a coffee shop and they'd sit there with a laptop, and I thought, oh, I couldn't do that. I
no,
couldn't
I
do
couldn't
that.
do that. I still can't
Well,
do that.
in actual fact, I can now, and I'll tell you why I can. Is because is before COVID, we were PC. We had 7 PCs in the office.
I
We haven't got
know.
any now. We haven't got any now. They've all gone. We're all laptops now. And I find now, and this might be sort of stating the bleeding obvious, as they say, is that with a laptop, I discovered that I could go and work from anywhere, wherever I wanted to. And I know it sounds really obvious, but
Yeah.
I know it sounds really obvious, but no, I mean, you really can. You don't
Mm,
need to be tied in. But at the same time, you don't want to be taking the laptop on holiday. Think, well, I'm going on holiday. I'll take my laptop with me. I think it's being disciplined with it. But there's nothing wrong with
yeah.
saying, do you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to go and sit in the coffee shop just for half an hour. I'll go for an hour, sit in the coffee shop, take my laptop with me, do some work there. I mean, with our office now that we've got, I really don't have many people coming in now. All our wedding clients, commercial clients don't come in at all. They never
No.
have done. We've always gone out to see them. Wedding clients used to come in, and they don't anymore because we do all our meetings via Zoom or Teams.
Mm,
Okay, so I don't even have anyone really that comes into the office now. It's completely changed. But so I can choose to go and work from home, um, but going to sit in a Costa, I've done it before when I've been out on a shoot or something, and I've needed to take a break or I've needed to go somewhere. I've taken my laptop and I've sat in a Costa or a Starbucks or somewhere, and I thought, this is quite good. I could sit in here for a couple of hours. I wish I had a couple of hours. I can sip on a coffee, do some work.
yeah.
And I think that would be quite a good thing. And if you are sitting at home and you've been working from home all week, I urge you to grab your laptop today and say to yourself, you know what? I am going to go to Starbucks. Who cares if your coffee is going to cost £3 or £5 or whatever it is? Okay. And say, well, I can do a coffee cheaper at home. Of course you can, but just do it and see how you get on. See if you like it. See if it works
Mm,
for you. And then maybe go and do it once a week or something. Or you might find, you know what? I'm going to go and do it every other day or something. It might just get you out and about because I am conscious that a lot of photographers do spend an awful lot of time on their own.
mm.
And when you hear people like Keir Starmer saying presenteeism and people should have the right to work from home and everything, it's not necessarily all it's cracked up to be if you're on your own all the
No,
time.
I mean, I don't think it is. I think, yes, I think it should be basically a half and half. I think you should go to the office sometimes and then and work from home. Because there's pros and cons for both, and like everything, you need to have some sort of medium. I think, like I said, I mean, obviously the obvious no commutes and it's better for the environment. It's better for your wallets. It's you're
Yeah.
cutting down that's obviously going to be better. But I don't know. I think also employers have the right to see their employees in person.
Oh,
I think that
definitely.
is also a right. Especially if you're paying their wages, you need to see them once in a while. So yeah, I think that my
That's a
main
good.
worry
That's a
about
good. That's a really good point. Actually, I like that.
yeah
Well, yeah, employees do. They do have a right. It may not be written there, but just
yeah
common sense and whatever should say to you, yeah, look, my employer wants to see me. I
yeah
need to go in.
I
It's a really good point.
I don't I think that is generally don't I mean I'm not always flying the flag for employers here, but
Mm.
I think that is something. It needs to be give and take for both. Um, as I say, I think my overall worry about the working from home thing is that people just get into their hidey holes and are social elements. Human beings are generally social creatures, and I think we're losing that a little bit just by how I interact with clients these days. If I'm booking people into the studio or something, it used to be always by phone call. Now it's increasingly becoming emails and texts, um, because people don't want to talk to me. Some people don't want to talk to me over the phone. They'd rather do it via text. And you can't get things across in the same way over a text message than you do in person. There's tone of voice, there's context of voice, there's all those sorts of things. And I think we are losing something if we're just constantly all just working from home and not interacting with other people. Whether that's people you like, people you don't like. It's all a life lesson on how you on how you deal with things. And I think we're in danger of losing that.
Yeah, I think so. But to almost sort of finish off now is, uh, for those of you that are in this situation where you do work from home all the time, I think try and make a conscious effort. I would say to try and get out and just go and work from somewhere else if you can. Just
Yeah.
just try it once. Do it once this week. Do it today. Do it tomorrow. Um, and and see if it changes things. See if it
Yeah.
motivates you that little bit more, and works for you. So.
Awesome
Okay.
stuff. Right, I think it's time for a drink, isn't it?
Yep. Good stuff. Right, Mark. When we go out and buy gears, and let's say cameras specifically, or when you
Okay.
go out and buy
Yeah.
a camera, okay,
Yeah.
and what's your process of going out to buy a camera? Would you say that right? I need a new camera. What shall I get?
Okay. So I'm
I'm not
quite
talking
different.
about I'm not talking about a specific model here. I'm just talking about the process you get to say that's the camera I'm going to get.
Okay. Well, I think I'm quite different to you in a lot of ways when it comes to buying gear.
Hmm.
I don't buy it as frequently. And I tend to stick to what I know. um, Mainly because I don't want to change the whole bloody system. So I think it is a bit different. I think it takes me a while to get into wanting to do it. I think, for example, when I had the Canon EOS Smart 5D Mark II, it was a no-brainer to want to go to the 3. I thought the 3 was a good camera. I'd used it a couple of times. There was no real thought process to me as going, oh, what's the Nikon equivalent? What's the Sony equivalent? I was just like, no, I'm just gonna. I love the Mark II. It was a great camera when it came out. The Mark III's got the additional things like 2 card slots, where the 5D Mark II's only got one, and they had more focusing points on the Mark III. All these things, right? It was a no brainer that was going to be my next camera after the Mark II. But like I said, didn't look at Nikon, didn't look at Sony. It was just because I can't be bothered to change up all my lenses. I just couldn't be bothered with it. And I always felt like I don't, I've never really gotten a business loan or anything like that. I've really just built everything up gradually. We when I first got the studio, it was with a business partner at the time. We basically saved up all the wedding money that we made to fit out the studio, and we also used the stuff that we already had to fit out that studio. So we've always done it in that way, and that's always been the way I've done it. I shot with one camera for a long time, and when I bought the Mark III, I then had 2 cameras. So I still used the Mark II. It just became my second camera. So I've always been slowly building my system. Other people do it different ways. That's the way I've just happened to do it. It's just
Yeah.
happened organically. So, and then when I jumped to mirrorless, as you probably remember, it took me a long time to do it. It had to be. And then when the R6 and the R5 came out, that to me was the time for me to make that jump to mirrorless. Everyone was raving about these cameras. There was no chance of me going to Sony or Nikon, as I said. So I was waiting for Canon really to bring out a decent mirrorless camera, and they did. These 2 were phenomenal cameras. I think when they bought them, everyone was raving about them, and I got the R6, and
Yeah.
now
No.
the Mark III
And
is
it was
now my second.
Yeah, and looking back, it was you made you did the right thing to wait and made the right decision,
Yeah.
definitely. Now, for me, when I moved from I had to move from shooting medium format to digital,
Mm,
and the first main camera that I really got was the D3, which was
mm.
still, I would say, still the best digital camera that I've ever had.
Of its time, I'm
The Nikon
guessing.
D3.
It
Sorry.
probably wouldn't. It probably wouldn't stand up now, would it?
No, no, but looking
No.
back for
But in
years,
its
it
time,
was yeah, that's right, yeah, and that was going back now to 2009, and I got that, and that was great. But the reason why I bought Nikon was because the company that I used to work for many years, in amongst the large format and the medium format stuff they used to use, if there was anything 35 millimeter, it was the Nikons. They had 35, right? So I just
yeah,
immediately went to Nikon. I didn't think of Canon or anything like that.
yeah.
And
So similar sort of thing then.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and the D3, and I might be wrong here, but as far as I remember, it was the first one that had the dual card slot
Yeah.
as well. So that was like a no-brainer.
So just a question: the
And
D3 was your first digital SLR, was
I
it?
no, I did have one before that. I had the Fuji S2 that I
Right.
bought, which was awful.
Yeah.
But that was my sort of um, uh,
It's
in actual
amazing. Really,
fact,
'cause it's slightly different because I became a proper pro. I got my first professional job in
mm,
2005,
yeah,
and by that point, the studio I was then working for, that it was always going to be digital. I never really shot. I shot one wedding professionally on
yeah,
film, only one.
right,
And
yeah,
after that, it was just digital because I guess the time I entered
yeah, that's right, yeah,
the
and for
industry. But it's
yeah,
interesting to know that I was shooting professionally. It was a Hasselblad we first used with a phase
yeah,
one back, and that
yeah.
was in 2005. Were you still using film at that point then?
I was still using film. I was using film
That's
until
amazing.
2009 because I was really because I wasn't convinced with digital. I knew it was going digital, but the
Yeah.
quality just wasn't there that film was giving me, and then I had to make the
Mm,
jump. And I did buy another camera before I got the Fuji S2, which I really didn't like. Then
mm.
I bought the Pentax. I think it was medium format. I always remember forget what it was, but it was £7,000, and it had a digital back and a film back, and it
Wow.
went up to 400 ISO, and I started using that at weddings, and I ended up stopped
A
using the
whole big
digital back.
400.
I know, I stopped using the digital back and carried on using the film back for it, and then in the end the D3 came out, and I jumped and
Mm,
sort of never looked back from there. But and so I went to Nikon. Now I since then I'd always shot Nikon, then I went to Sony, and then went to Canon. And one of the
mm.
reasons why I went to Sony was because it wasn't just my decision, because this was at a time when there was a few of us working here in the office. So
Yeah.
I was getting different comments and different views from others saying, why don't you try the Sony? This is great and whatever, which I would never have thought of. I would
Mm.
always thought to stuck with Nikon, but because I was working closely with other people, I was getting all these other opinions and said, okay, well, look, why don't we try it and various things. But anyway, jumping ahead to now, it was more a case of, what do you do if you go and buy, for somebody who's going to go and buy a new camera?
Yeah.
And inevitably there are so many lists.
Yeah.
Okay. And I come across the best digital cameras for 2024. And this is from PC Mag. Came across it and I thought, oh, this is quite interesting because they've done a list of the top cameras. But what I like about what the list is, it's not detailed, it's just right. But what I do like about it is says they've got a little section for each one, and which says who's it for, which is what I
Who's it
really
for?
like. Okay.
Okay.
So, and what they've done, it says their introduction to the article basically says, where is it here? Are you shopping for a digital camera but don't know where to start? We're here to help. PC Mag has been covering digital cameras for over 20 years and are experts have extensive experience. And it says that they look at a range of different ones, and they have their editor's choice and picks as well. Now, I'm going to go through them. And some of these we're very familiar with and some that we're
Yeah.
not. But
We're not going to go massively into these though. We're not.
no, we're not. It's going to be a
Gets
quick.
gets a bit
That's right.
dry otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So they're saying that if you're interested in buying the best fixed lens camera is the Fuji X100 Mark V.
Now we had a little play with this, didn't we? This is
They're
the one
really
with
good
all
cameras.
the
Yeah.
yeah. This is the one with all the film filters. So
Yeah.
the Provia and the Velvia and the yeah.
Exactly. Now, what they say, it's who it's for. It says this camera is aimed for photographers who don't always want to carry a big mirrorless camera. Um, uh, and it's everything is housed, no different lenses, just a fixed lens. But it also appeals for people that are smartphone creators as well, who want to avoid fiddling with changeable lenses, and people that appreciate a camera that oozes style as well.
I didn't realize it was APS-C. I thought it was full.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, it's at, I don't know how much it is, but I wouldn't have thought it was full frame. Okay, next one they say. Yeah. Now, the next one they say, which is the best full frame camera overall. Now, this will be interesting. In fact, I'm going to come on to this one last, Mark. I'm not going to mention this camera yet.
Well, I know which one it is. So
you're right. Okay. So, and I'll come on to the next one as well. Right. Okay. So, best mirrorless for enthusiasts and creators. So, I guess if you're just starting out, they reckon the Fujifilm X-S20 is the best camera.
Two Fujifilms cameras that we've mentioned then, which is.
Yeah, this is a near ideal camera for content creators and photo enthusiasts alike, and it's great for hobbyists and content creators, people who want to make YouTube videos or short films. Event photographers should look at higher tier models with dual card slots. But anyway, so that's they reckon that's a good one for content creators. The best action camera. This is interesting because they're saying the GoPro Hero 12 Black.
Well, it was always going to be GoPro, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they reckon it's good because it says is the camera to beat for first video creators who want to document outdoor adventures, dives, extreme sports, as well as just making vlogs. It started as a brand for surfers, so you can see what market that they're aiming for.
Okay.
Now, the best micro 4/3 mirrorless. This is interesting because a lot of people don't want to go full frame because of budgets. They just want a mirrorless camera that's going to do a good job for them. Yeah. But it does say with this, its sensor goes toe to toe with large format competitors in picture quality, and it's a Panasonic Lumix DC G9 Mark II, and it says it's for the micro 4/3 system. Makes sense for photographers who prefer to carry a lighter overall kit.
Yeah.
And it's also great for hybrid creators thanks to its excellent video toolkit. So remember, all these cameras also shoot great video as well. A lot of vloggers now. It says best full frame vlog camera. Okay, so if you've got a YouTube channel or aspire to have one, there's the Sony ZV-E1 should be on your shortlist. It's especially suitable if you plan to serve both as the on-screen talent and the camera operator. Okay, so you can watch yourself while you're being filmed if you're actually talking to camera. It's great for motion style shots. You can handle camera movement and concentrate on video. It's small size, weather sealed, and equally useful for location shots and in the studio as well. Best camera for vlogging is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I love the DJI Osmos. I've never used one, but they are great. They look great pieces of kit. And it says it's first and foremost a video camera. It snaps stills, but it's a gimbal-sized video is the main appeal. You should get it for self-recorded videos, travel logs, and the documentary-style footage. So if you're a real content creator and you want to walk around with your camera, doing pans and that type of thing, and talking to people on camera, then this is really good. It's these gimbals are really good. So let's move on. Now, the best camera under £1,000 for action. I think a lot of people, talk about being cost conscious. And it says the Canon EOS R10, which I think is a great camera. It's creators looking to jump into the Canon system who put more preference on fast focus over the slower full frame is a good entry point. And so it's good for action and around that under that £1,000 mark as well. Okay, now they reckon that the best camera, this is one that's going to be interesting for most people, I just held back on. Now they've split it into two, it seems. They have said that the best mirrorless camera, they've split it into two: the best high-res full-frame mirrorless camera and the best full-frame camera overall. So the best high-res full-frame camera is the Nikon Z8. The Nikon Z8 matches a high resolution 45 megapixel stacked CMOS sensor with an autofocus engine that can track subjects at 20 frames a second. An ideal combination from weddings to fashion events to sports and wildlife. Brilliant electronic viewfinder, weather sealed body is brilliant. Great for video, great for photography. The Z8 is for professionals who use a camera to make a living, as well as knowledgeable enthusiasts. High pixel sensor, great for landscape, architectural photography, great in-body stabilization, fast focus, and of course you've got the Z range of lenses. Now, the best camera to finish off
overall
with Canon is the EOS R6 Mark II, the best full frame camera overall. Interesting enough, they're getting 4.5 stars out of 5, not quite 5 stars, which is interesting.
No. Wow, I don't think did anything get 5 stars? Well, the Fuji did, I guess. But
did it? Okay, it says here they picked it because the Canon EOS R6 Mark II, it's our favorite full frame camera for most people. It snaps attractive 24 megapixel photos and is a class leading autofocus system that smartly recognizes people, animals, and vehicles. It's especially suitable for action shots and great for video filmmakers and vloggers. If you want a full frame camera and you have the budget for it, the R6 Mark II should be near the top of your list. The big sensor means you can get soft, defocused backgrounds, while the best in-class focus auto system ensures wildlife and sports specialists won't miss their shots. It's easy if you already own your own Canon. You can get an adapter for your lenses. And it says here the creators with Sony glass can look to the A7 Mark IV, which is what I'm getting to today, actually. We'll come on to that another time as an alternative because it offers competitive performance for the same price. So, interesting list. But how much do you trust this list now? How much do you go by this list or any list, not just this list, Mark?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's loads of these lists about, aren't there? I mean, just to give another shout out, this is from, is it PC Magazine?
PC Mag, yeah.
Yeah, PC Mag. So this is their opinion. It's all opinion based. I mean, I agree with a couple of these things. I like a couple of these cameras that are on here that they've picked and kind of agree. But look, they're guides only. You'll find another list that will say something else. It's all very opinionated. I personally think, I mean, the way I do it is, if you know what you're looking for, and by the way, only buy a new camera if you feel you need to, is my opinion.
Oh, definitely. Good point.
You don't just buy one for, oh, everyone else is getting one, so I need to get one. If your work is absolutely fine and the tools of your camera is fine, then don't change up until you need to, because they're not cheap. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I take it with a pinch of salt mainly. I think it's a good guide maybe, and it's something you can look into if you want to do a bit more research onto cameras, if there's a certain camera you're looking for. It's just people's opinion.
Yeah, I think they're worth looking at. I think one of the things is that if you decide on how much you want to spend, that's the thing, is think about your budget, think about what you want to spend, and then maybe look at lists and see what cameras come in around that price range, and then start to do comparisons. But the lists, you'll see different things, and certainly the Canon EOS R6 Mark II is a great camera, but it's not going to come on the top of everyone's list as the best full frame camera overall.
No. If you've got a shed load of Nikon stuff, you're not going to be buying the R6.
No.
Do you know what I mean? If you got 3 or 4, maybe 5 different lenses for Nikon, then the R6 isn't going to be the best camera overall for you, because that means you have to re-buy all your lenses again. I think it's even more expensive. Right, yeah.
But there's so much information out there more than ever before that will help you buy the right camera. But always go and try it. I mean, you've got shops like Wex, London Camera Exchange, the Flash Center. There are a lot of camera shops out there, not as many as there used to be.
No.
However, it's worth going out and traveling a few miles if you have to, is to go and pick them up, try them. Don't just order a camera online and without ever trying it or something. And that one bit of advice that you might get from a retailer might just help you switch your mind, and you'll get because all of these traders, London Camera Exchange, whoever I speak to, they're all really, really helpful. Wex are great. They some real knowledge in those shops. So you can go and buy
as well. Is it Camera World where you got your ass? No, another one.
Yeah, if retailers. yeah, I find that pretty much all camera retailers out there are great, and just because we
And
might not have mentioned them.
you're not necessarily going to get something cheaper online, by the way, guys.
No.
I think those days are gone. They all pretty much say the only time you might get something cheaper is if you go to a trade show, or if you go, was it grey label, whatever you call it, but
Yeah, grey imports, and that's
grey
that's places
imports.
like
That's the one.
that's places like Panama's, E-Infinity, where you can
Yeah.
buy cheaper.
Yeah, but then you don't get any warranty or anything like that. So if something goes wrong with it, you're stuck with a bill.
Yeah, that's right.
So so go and chat to people. Go and chat to because they know their stuff. So it's definitely worth them chatting to them because they'll always point you to the right way.
Yeah, good stuff. Mark, let's wrap it up there. Let's give a shout out to the Patreons.
Okay.
Amir Zainab, Carl Sherville.
Yeah.
You've got
Rob
the list.
I was just testing you. Rob Percy, Frank Case, Craig Chuck, Nick Payne. I think that's everyone, isn't it?
I think that's it. Yeah, good guys. Thank you for supporting the show. Anyone else out there, please do help support us, and we'll keep putting the content out. And actually,
Definitely.
going back to the first thing that we did speak about on this episode, I think Mark and I find this quite valuable actually. And I've said it before, it's great to it's great to just get together with somebody and just have a chat and chat about all the things that we enjoy doing and having our different opinions as well. And I think that helps us mentally as well. It's certainly, it's certainly, I've certainly found it very useful as well. And I view that as like networking with somebody and building that relationship with somebody. So good stuff. All right, guys, we will see you next episode.
Yes, see you at the next one, guys.
Thanks
Bye.
for listening. Cheers.